حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Allah says, believers have taqwa, consciousness of Allah, with the taqwa due to Him, and do not die except as believers, as Muslims. وقال تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم وما يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Believers have taqwa of Allah and speak words which hit the mark. He will put your actions right for you and forgive you your wrong deeds. All who obey Allah and His Messenger have won a mighty victory. Alhamdulillah. One of the most important principles or teachings of our religion is the teaching of, in Arabic, is known as ta'zeem, is that magnifying or revering or holding in regarding as azim, as great, holding in awe that which Allah and His Messenger have magnified, right? Ta'zeem ma 'azzamahu Allah wa rasuluh. And in a similar vein, that goes hand in hand with deprecating that which Allah has told us is not valuable, is not high, is not lofty. So we find in a hadith that the Prophet said that if this worldly life, and it doesn't mean your occupation, doesn't mean working, things like that, distractions from Allah. If this dunya, if this state of distraction from Allah had any value with Allah, is that He would never give a disbeliever even a sip of water. Right? In other words, that Allah doesn't have value for these type of things. Likewise, sins and ma'asi and disobedience, these are things that have no value. And having ta'zeem is essential to our religion. Having this sense of respect, this sense of awe, this sense of magnification to certain things is essential to our religion. And even the Arabs before Islam, is that they had this ta'zeem for certain things. So for example, Mecca, the sacred city, the inviolable city, is that even before Islam, is that the Arabs knew that this was a sacred site. And they had a reverence for the sacred site, to the extent that they mentioned that when they were rebuilding the Kaaba, is that none of the Arabs wanted to be the first one to take away the brick. Because all of them were filled with this ta'zeem, this reverence, and they didn't want to be the one who was the first one to destroy the Kaaba, even though it's to rebuild it. And Allah confirms, and He confirms these meanings of ta'zeem. And what does Allah say in the Quran? ذَلِكَ وَمَا يُعَدِّمْ شَعَائِرُ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Is that those who honor Allah's sacred symbols, Allah's sacred rites, that comes, where does that come from? That is from taqwa, that is religious, that is valid feelings, that is from taqwa in their hearts. So the idea here is that Allah has these sha'air, He has these sacred symbols, if you want to call them, or sacred rites, or monuments. And they have to be renovated, and they have to be respected, and they have to be held, and they have to be magnified. So what are these sha'air? What are these sacred symbols? Is that among them is obviously the Kaaba, right? We have Kaaba. When you go to the Kaaba, there's a certain respect that almost comes naturally. Amongst them is the Quran. We have to have respect for the Quran. And that's why it's bad adab, it's bad etiquette that someone puts the Quran on the floor. Right? You don't put the Quran on the floor, you're supposed to hold it with respect. Ramadan, right? There's a sanctity of Ramadan. Is that when we're fasting the month of Ramadan, you can feel it in the air. Masajid, is that there's supposed to be that when we come to the masajid, is that we have this feeling of ta'zeem. And that's why we take our shoes off at the door. And that's why we should dress appropriately. And that's why it's makruh, it's disliked, almost it's prohibited, to come to the masjid and to harm people with bad smells. And the Prophet said this was represented by garlic and raw onions, but in our days and times it also extends to cigarettes, right? Because that harms the person that you're praying next to. And also from amongst these sacred symbols is the Prophet Muhammad himself. And this principle of magnifying that which Allah has made great and belittling that which Allah has belittled is from the greatest virtues of the heart. And it's from the greatest acts of the heart. And that's why one of the scholars, he said very beautifully, he said that this deen, all of it, is ta'zeem. It's having that respect for the religious symbols, having that respect for the religion. And they mentioned once there was a man who was a sinner, he was an alcoholic. and he'd spend his days and nights drinking alcohol and all other types of sins. And one time he passed by and he saw Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim on a piece of paper on the floor. And he said, "This is the name of my Lord," and he picked it up and he cleaned it and he put it on somewhere nice on his shelf, high in his shelf. And that he says that night he saw a dream where someone addressed him and said that you will be a righteous man, and that he was blessed with tawbah, he was blessed with repentance, and he actually became one of the great righteous people of this nation. All that because of the ta'zeem in his heart. Right? And the meanings of ta'zeem, the meanings of magnifying what Allah has made great, is that these can be even subtle at times. There was one scholar from the Indian subcontinent, is that one time he went to use the washroom, and as soon as he went in, he went out right away. And people said, and then he started washing his hands. And people said, what happened? And he said that I was writing sacred knowledge, and I saw ink on my fingers. And I didn't want to take that ink into the washroom, so I wanted to wash my hands off that ink first, out of ta'zeem, out of reverence for that sacred knowledge. So these are the meanings of ta'zeem, and you cannot stress the importance of having ta'zeem. If you think about why people, for example, might leave the fold of Islam, and we ask Allah for salama, is that they don't have that respect for Allah's sacred symbols. It's that they lost that respect. They don't have that. And if you look at earlier generations, grandparents and parents, is that they always had that ta'zeem. Even if they, for example, didn't have a lot of practice, when it was Ramadan, it was Ramadan. When it was the masjid, it was the masjid. They had these certain ta'zeem that goes hand in hand with etiquettes. So, from among these blessed symbols and these blessed sha'a'ir and these sacred rites, is that we have to have ta'zeem for, is this blessed and auspicious day of the day of Jumu'ah. And that from the sunnah of Allah, from the ways of Allah, is that Allah has selection. Allah selects certain things. So He selected different places. From the places that He selected Mecca and Medina and made them holy places. From the times, He selected Ramadan. From the days, He selected Arafah. From the nights, He selected Laylatul Qadr. From the people, from humanity, He selected the prophets and the messengers. And also from this divine selection is this blessed day that we find ourselves in, is that the day of Jumu'ah, or you can pronounce it Jumu'ah, Jumu'ah or Jumu'ah. And that the virtues of Jumu'ah are explicit. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that Adallallahu al-Jumu'ah man kana qablina, is that the people before us, the Jews and the Christians, is that Allah has precluded them or barred them from reaching Jumu'ah. فَكَانَ الْيَهُودُ يَوْمُ السَّبْتِ, is that the Jews, they have their holy day on Saturday. وَكَانَ النَّصَارُ يَوْمُ الْأَحَدِ, and that the Christians have it on Sunday. فَجَاءَ اللَّهُ بِنَا فَهَدَانَ اللَّهُ لِيَوْمِ الْجُمْعَةِ, and that Allah explicitly guided us to the day of Friday. And then He says, what's the meaning of this? The meaning of this is that Allah left, they knew that there was a holy day, or that there was a special day, and Allah left it to their own ijtihad, to their own reasoning to try to figure out what day it was. But when it comes to the Yawm al-Jumu'ah, is that Allah explicitly, out of His mercy, told us what this day was, and that this is the day of Jumu'ah. I know somebody I know who became Muslim, they used to say that before I was Muslim, Friday was my favorite day. Right? It's the day off of work. And then when I became Muslim, subhanAllah, alhamdulillah, Friday is also even nur than nur. Now it's even more is his favorite day. And this day of Jumu'ah is that in a hadith of Ibn Majah, the hadith Prophet says, "Inna hadha al-yawm Eidin," is that this is a day of Eid. This is a day of celebration. This is a day of rejoicing. فَجَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِلْمُسْلِمِينَ, and that Allah made it for the believers, the Muslims. فَمَنْ جَاءَ إِلَى الْجُمْعَةِ فَلْيَغْتَسِلْ, and that whoever comes to the Jumu'ah should take the full bath. And that in another hadith, explicit as can be, إِنَّ الْيَوْمُ الْجُمْعَةِ سَيِّدُ الْأَيَامِ, is that the day of Jumu'ah is the leader, is the master of days. It's the Sayyid al-Ayam. وَأَعْظُمَهَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ, and it's the greatest day in the sight of Allah. وَأَعْظَمُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مِنْ يَوْمِ الْأَضْحَى وَيَوْمِ الْفِطْرِ, and it's even greater than the day of Adha and the day of Fitr. فِيهِ خَمْسُ خِلَالٍ, and then it has 5 special attributes, 5 special qualities. خَلَقَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ آدَمَ, that in it, in Jumu'ah, Adam was created. وَأَهْبَتَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ آدَمَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ, and on the day of Jumu'ah is that Adam descended to the earth. وَفِيهِ تَوَفَّى اللَّهُ آدَمَ, and on the day of Jumu'ah Adam passed away. وَفِيهِ سَاعَةٌ لَا يَسْأَلُ اللَّهُ فِيهَا عَبْدٌ شَيْئًا إِلَّا عَطَاهُ. And that in Jumu'ah is that there's a certain hour, is that no one will ask Allah for anything except that He will grant him it. مَا لَمْ يَسْأَلْ حَرَامًا. As long as he's not asking for something that is prohibited. وَفِيهِ تَقُمُ السَّاعَةُ. And on the day of Jumu'ah, on this Friday, is that this is the day that the Day of Judgment will be established. And then our hadith, خَيْرُ يَوْمٍ طَلَعَتْ عَلَيْهِ الشَّمْسُ يَوْمُ الْجُمْعَةِ. Is that the best day that the sun has shone upon is the day of Jumu'ah. فِيهِ خُلِقَ آدَمْ وَفِي أُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةِ. It's the day that he was created, Adam, the day that he entered paradise. وَفِي أُخْرِجَ مِنْهَا. The day that he left, he came to the earth. So it's really important that we realize, and we don't take these blessings for granted, and that we realize that Jumu'ah is mu'azzam, it's revered, it's something that's special, and it's a great opportunity that we don't just want to know in some theoretical manner, but we want to be able to experience and taste the blessings and taste the benefits of this day of Jumu'ah. And that's why there are certain etiquettes and there's certain things that we should do that will let us better optimize our Jumu'ah experience. And amongst those things that we should do in preparation for Jumu'ah is that we should prepare for Jumu'ah. When does Jumu'ah start, the day of Jumu'ah? It starts on the eve of Jumu'ah, which is Thursday night on Maghrib. And a lot of the Salihin, a lot of the righteous people, is that they would whatever work occupations they had as much as possible, is that they would try to accomplish all of that such that they would be free from Thursday night all the way to Friday night, so that they spend their whole day of Jumu'ah in goodness and acts of worship. And so preparing for Jumu'ah, even if we can't prepare, we're busy, we have occupations, but mentally, thinking, realizing that this is a sacred day, the day of Jumu'ah, the day of Friday, the day of Jumu'ah, and that we prepare for it in advance. And one of the ways that we can do that is pray tahajjud. Right? We might not be able to wake up early on other days of the week, but let's try to pray tahajjud at least once a week. And if someone wakes up before Fajr and prays tahajjud, nafil, supererogatory prayers, is that they'll find blessings in their whole week, even if they just pray once a week. Likewise, praying Fajr in Jama'ah, coming to the masjid, even if it's just once a week. We try to increase, we come for Maghrib, we come for Isha. Start slowly, right? No one's saying come right away 5 times a day, pray all your prayers in Jama'ah. But we should have this concern to pray our prayers in Jama'ah. And if at least we can get Fajr on Jumu'ah or Maghrib on Jumu'ah or Isha on Jumu'ah, we should try to do that. And that there's a hadith, أفضل الصلوات عند الله صلاة الصبح يوم الجمعة في جماعة. Is that the best prayer in the sight of Allah is the Fajr prayer on the day of Jumu'ah in congregation. Let's make an intention to do that, to pray in congregation on Jumu'ah. Likewise, other items include taking the full bath, the ghusl, wearing beautiful scents, perfume, and wearing one's best clothes. Right? There's a hadith, إذا كان يوم الجمعة فغسل أحدكم رأسه واغتسل ثم غدا أو ابتكر ثم دنا فاستمع وانصت كان له بكل خطوة خطايا وصيام سنة وقيام سنة. Is that when the day of Jumu'ah enters, and one of you take the full bath, and that they go and they proceed to the masjid early, and that they come closer to the pulpit and they listen carefully, is that for every step that they take on the path to the masjid, is that they will have the equivalent of fasting and the equivalent of standing in prayer for a whole year. And that's why coming early to the Jumu'ah is also one of the important etiquettes of the Jumu'ah. Coming early to the prayer, not coming late as much as possible. So sometimes there might be traffic on the road and so on and so forth, but trying our best to come early. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the angels, they stand at the doors of the masjids and they take note of who's coming in and at what time. And that the earlier a person comes in, the more reward that person has. And the Prophet compared it to a sacrifice. So the one who comes in earliest, it's as if he's sacrificing a camel. Camels cost a lot of money. They still do. They're about $1 million. Or $1 million real. So then the second person that comes in afterwards, he's like he sacrificed a cow. And likewise, it's like he sacrificed a sheep. And likewise, a chicken. And then a sparrow. And then a bailbah. And then an egg. And then what happens is that once the imam assumes the pulpit, is that the angels stop recording and they listen to the sermon, and that ends. And that this brings us to the next etiquette in Jumu'ah, is that listening carefully to the khutbah. Is that the essence of the khutbah, right, is to remind us of taqwa, of Allah, of being conscious of Allah, of what we're supposed, of our responsibilities and our obligations. And the khutbah, the weekly khutbah, it should be that we all take something from it, and we optimize our week throughout the week, and we keep on taking something from it. Even if it's just one thing you might have heard that you like and that you benefit, we take that and we try to implement it in our lives. And the khutbah is not a place of politics or controversial topics. It's to remind us of Allah on the day of Akhirah, on the last day. And one of the etiquettes and one of the things that will facilitate us to benefit from the khutbah, the speech, is that we should all personalize it. We should think that whatever's being said, it doesn't relate to anybody else except ourselves. We should see it as a personal message to ourselves, and that's one of the ways that we can benefit, right, from the Friday. Right? So if we talk about Salāt and Jama'ah, praying in congregation, no one should think, oh, well, people don't come to the masjid. What's wrong with the people that don't come to the masjid? Rather, we should think, what can I do? When do I have free time that I can come to the masjid and pray my salats in congregation? And I'll just closing. One of the most important etiquettes of Jumu'ah is making it a day of dhikr, making it a day of remembrance of Allah, and a day of dua, and a day of turning towards Allah. And that this is the essence of the day of Jumu'ah. Is that, as we know in the Quran, فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ. When the salah is finished, go about, disperse on the earth, and seek the bounty of Allah. You go back to your works, you're seeking the bounty of Allah. Right? However, وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. But don't forget to remember Allah abundantly in hopes that you will be successful. So it's a day that we turn to Allah. It's as if you can say, we're busy throughout the week, but let's make one day, let's invest one day for our akhirah, where we really, we're reminded about taqwa, where we really do things that we don't necessarily do throughout the day. We come to salah, and we come to this masjid for the congregation, Jumu'ah, other things like that. Is that Imam al-Haddad, one of the scholars, he says about this, he says, free yourself every Friday from all worldly occupations and devote this noble day entirely to the hereafter. Occupy yourself with pure goodness and resolute focus towards God. Watch carefully for the hour in which requests are granted, which is a period of time in each Friday when a Muslim who asks God to grant him any kind of goodness or protect him from any evil is granted it. And that this is another hadith, and I'll end the first khutbah with this, is that the Prophet ﷺ said, one of the companions asked him, قلت ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم جالس أنا إنا لنجد في كتاب الله في يوم الجمعة ساعة لا يوافقها عبد مؤمن يصلي يسألنا فيها شيئا. Is that when is this appointed time where du'as are most definitely accepted? And that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, so this companion asked him, he says that we found in the book of Allah that there's an hour that no one will ask except that they're granted it. And he says, قال عبد الله فأشار إلي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أو بعد ساعة فقلت صدقت أو بعد ساعة فقلت أي ساعة هي قال هي آخر ساعة من ساعات النهار. And that the Prophet responded is that this hour is from the last hours of the day, and before Maghrib. فقلت إنها ليست ساعة صلاة. And then this companion said that this hour, you're not supposed to pray before Maghrib. It's makruh to pray any prayer after Asr. قال بلى. And the Prophet said, no, this is the time of prayer. إن العبد المؤمن إذا صلى ثم جلس فلا يحبسه إلا الصلاة وهو في الصلاة. He says, no, this is a time of prayer, because when you pray your prayer and you remain seated in that spot, and you're not seated except for no other reason that you can't pray anymore, he said that's counted as your salah. So may Allah give us the tawfiq to optimize and to realize and to live in the moment such that we realize that this day of Jumu'ah is an auspicious and blessed day, and that we not just know the virtues, but we actually experience them and we taste them. والله عز وجل يقول وبقوله يهتدي المهتدين جل في علاه وإذا قرئ القرآن فاستمعوا له وأنصتوا لعلكم ترحمون. وقال عز من قائل الكريم فإذا قرأت القرآن فاستعذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم الكريم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Is that what is the best deed, the best action that we could perform on the day of Jumu'ah? That's a question that we should ask ourselves. And the answer is that the best action, if not the best action, is a very easy and simple action, and it's simply sending salah, sending benediction, sending prayers upon the Prophet. So that person says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Very easy. And that the Prophet said, Inna min afdala ayyamikum yawm al-Jumu'ah. Is that the best of days is the day of Jumu'ah. فَأَكْثِرُوا عَلَيَّ مِنَ الصَّلَاةِ. Is that so send copious amounts of salah upon the Prophet alayya, upon me. إِنَّ صَلَاتَكُمْ مَعْرُودَةٌ عَلَيْهِ. Because when you send and you say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, is that he sees that, and that he's conscious of that. And the companions, they asked about this, and they said that how can you be conscious of this, salatun alayk, when you are in your grave? That was the question that they asked, and he answered, is that Allah has prohibited the earth to consume the bodies of the prophets. In other words, the Prophet ﷺ is alive in his grave in a life hayal barzakhiyya, in a way that's according to the barzakh, the intermediate stage. And in another beautiful hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ said, أكثر الصلاة عليه يوم الجمعة وليلة الجمعة فمن صلى عليه صلاة صلى الله عليه أشرا. Is that send copious amounts of salah upon me on the day of Jumu'ah and the eve of Jumu'ah. For whoever sends one salah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, whoever sends one salah upon me, is that Allah sends 10 blessings, benedictions upon him. And another hadith, من صلى علي صلاة واحدة صلى الله عليه عشر صلوات وحطت عنه عشر خطايات ورفع له عشر درجات. Is that whoever sends one benediction, one peace upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that Allah blesses him with 10 salawat, he removes from him 10 mistakes, and he raises him in 10 degrees. And as Imam Ibn Qayyim mentions very beautifully, is that what is the wisdom of sending salawat upon the Prophet on the day of Jumu'ah? Is that he says that the day of Jumu'ah is the Sayyidul Ayyam, it's the best of days. And the Prophet ﷺ is the Sayyidul Anam, is that he's the best of humanity, he's the best of all creation. So when you're on the best of days and you're sending salawat on the best of creation, it's as if you're joining between the best of both worlds. It's as if you're joining between the best of both worlds. And another wisdom of sending abundant salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ on the day of Jumu'ah is that we have to realize that this is a way to establish a connection with him. That there's a modern misconception that sometimes people think about the Prophet in very dry terms. I think he's just a messenger, and he gave a message, he delivered the message, he went back to his Lord and he forgot. But that's not the way of the people of truth, is that they have a personal and they have a real connection with the Prophet ﷺ. And you see this, that the Prophet ﷺ, what did he say? And I'll end with this hadith. وَدَدْتُ أَنَا قَدْ رَأَيْتُ إِخْوَانَنَا. He says, I wish, so the Prophet ﷺ is expressing his longing that he would meet his brethren. And the companion said, قَالُوا أَلَسْنَا إِخْوَانَكَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. And the companion said, are we not your brothers, O Rasulullah? Are we not your brethren? And he said, قَالَ بَلْ أَنْتُمْ أَصْحَابِي. He said, you are my companions. وَإِخْوَانُنَا الَّذِينَ لَمْ يَأْتُوا بَعْدِ. And that my brothers, the Prophet referred to his brothers as those who haven't come yet. Is that the Prophet ﷺ is establishing this personal relationship, and that this is one of the means to attaining that is the salah ala nabi. قالوا فكيف تعرف من لم يأتي بعد من أمتك يا رسول الله. So they said, how are you going to recognize those who haven't come yet from your nation, O Rasulullah? فقال أرأيت لو أن رجلا له خيل غرة محجلة بين ظهر. So the Prophet ﷺ, he gave this metaphor, is that don't you see a horse that has distinguishing feature of having white on its forehead, its forelock? Is that won't you be able to recognize it among other horses? And they said yes, and then the Prophet said that by the effects of one's wudu, on the Day of Judgment, people will come forth with their faces and their arms and their feet radiating from the effects of wudu. And the Prophet said, قال أولى الناس بي يوم القيامة أكثرهم على الصلاة. That the closest person to me on the Day of Judgment is the one who says more or has copious amounts of salawat upon him. من كان أكثرهم عليه الصلاة كان أقربهم مني منزلة. That the closest person in rank to me is the one who has the most salat upon me. So may Allah make this a day of spirituality, and make this a day of benefit, make this a day of connecting to the Prophet ﷺ, and make this a day of happiness and a day of Eid for us and all the Muslims, wherever they may be. واعلموا يا عباد الله أن الله أمرنا بأمر بدأ فيه بنفسه فقال إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد عبدك ورسولك النبي الأمي وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على سيدنا محمد عبدك ورسولك النبي الأمي وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد اللهم أعز الإسلام وانصر المسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام وانصر المسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام وانصر المسلمين اللهم كن لإخواننا المسلمين في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها اللهم اغفر لنا وللمسلمين والمسلمات المؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات مغفرة ظاهرة وباطنة سرا وعلانية لا تغادر لنا ذنبا ولا نكتسب بعدها خطيئة ولا إثما إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر.
Please move to your left, fill up all the rows.